Hey guys, it's Courtney Cooper. Welcome to Training Tip Tuesday. I am the owner of C Square Farm and a partner in Excel Star Sport Horses. And our topic today is closing the sale. How to negotiate, how to frame up your bill of sale, questions you may have on the pre-purchase and anything after the sale. So what I'd love to hear from you guys are questions you might have. I have good help here and my dog. Reese is on the camera, so that's super. But if you have any questions, please shoot us a line, let us know, and also let us know where you're watching from. So when you are involved with buying a horse, my thought always is the agent or the seller wants to sell you the horse. You as a buyer wants to buy a horse. And so really the whole point is to get to a point on a purchase price that everybody's happy with. So some people will have a purchase price that they've set that they won't go below. Some people will have some wiggle room or negotiation built into the price. And it really depends on how the seller has priced the horse. And that really is a question for you as a seller, as a buyer, to ask them. If you have a trainer working for you, part of the reason they earn a commission is that they are there to help you negotiate a purchase price that they think is fair based on the market value of the horse, what they know is out there and available. There may be certain things about the horse that make the horse intrinsically more valuable. The horse may be an absolute slave and just jump everything, have a perfect lead change, be super sound, and have done exactly the job you want it to do for several riders. In that case, the horse is probably worth its weight in gold. Or it may be a young talent that has Olympic potential, and that may be priced a different way. So you really have to know sort of the ins and outs of what you're looking for, what the market will bear. And also get a feel from the seller or the seller's agent. I usually know if someone's going to have the ability to negotiate or not, and I will bring that up if someone asks me. One thing that I never do, though, is someone will say, well, tell me what your best price is. Well, as a seller, it's never my job to negotiate against myself. So I always ask that the buyers give me a price that they want me to go back and negotiate with the seller with. So you go back and forth a couple of times. The real key, flower. Sorry, my help is wandering, Therese. Any questions, Ed, by the way?
Not yet.
Not any questions. Okay, well, if anybody has any questions, let us know. So you've gotten to the point now where it looks like the purchase price has been negotiated. I also always like to do that prior to the horse's pre-purchase exam. A lot of people will wait until after the pre-purchase exam to negotiate the price. I find that puts you in a really awkward place, because if the horse has gone through the pre-purchase and everything's been great, then the seller really feels like they have no real reason to negotiate the price because the horse has just passed pre-purchase pretty well. And from the buyer's perspective, they might have wanted to do some negotiating, but again, if nothing's found on the pre-purchase, you sort of fall down a little bit in your power there from the negotiating standpoint. So you've negotiated a price. This has been done, backing up a step. You've come and ridden the horse maybe a second time, taking the horse cross country. In the case of event horses, taking it fox hunting, or out with hounds if it's a fox hunter. You've done some different things. Again, the thing to remember is to respect each other's time and the effort that people have put in. And so if someone's made an appointment and taken a horse somewhere or met you or provided the horse to be available to be seen, don't ghost them. Be back in contact with them. Let them know, hey, the horse is for us. We're going to think about it and let you know a price that we'd like to negotiate off of. Or say, thank you for your time. I'm not sure this horse is really what we're looking for. And then everybody feels free to move on. So back to negotiated. You've negotiated the purchase price. Now you have a pre-purchase. I highly recommend a pre-purchase regardless of the animal, regardless of sort of who you're buying it from, how old the horse is, how young the horse is, or any of that information. I think it really sets everybody up to be protected if a horse goes through a physical exam with a veterinarian. It can be as little as checking the horse's heart, eyes, and lungs, a physical exam, and jogging the horse up for lameness, or it can be quite extensive with 50, 60 x-rays. I've had people bone scan horses. You see some crazy things, but it depends on the horse. It depends on the prior experiences of the purchaser generally. If they've had an experience where, let's say, the horse has had sore feet, they might take some more radiographs of the horse's feet. So let's say something comes up on a pre-purchase. Perhaps there's a, now she's settling in, now we're good. Where are you? There you are. So something shows up. Maybe there's an old OCD. Maybe a horse had a slightly positive flexion. Maybe there's something that shows up on a pre-purchase. So if that's the case, you really have to talk to the vet who's doing the pre-purchase. Ask them what their experience is in terms of will this cause a problem. A lot of things might cause a problem for one individual but won't cause a problem for another. Maybe the horse is stepping down in its career, and so what may have been a problem at a meter 30 or intermediate level eventing isn't going to be that problem doing short stirrup or doing training level eventing. So you really have to know what the job is, and the veterinarian will help you do that. With regards to veterinarians, I try to use the best veterinarian in the area that does sports medicine and that does lameness work, that specializes in that. Because it's one of those things, if you see a horse a lot, the lameness work a lot, you recognize small things that can turn into big things, and so you'd like to use the best veterinarian. Sometimes people will say, don't use their vet, don't use a vet that they know. Again, vets have ethics and code of conducts, and they have to disclose to you if they do work for the client. I have actually found that with my veterinarians that it is more challenging to get a horse passed by my veterinarian than someone I don't know, because they hold themselves to a higher standard when they're working for me and when they're working for someone outside of me, and so they really have to look at everything with a very clear conscience. So you go through the pre-purchase, and so a lot of people ask me, how many x-rays do you take? What do you x-ray? Do you do a lot of x-rays? What do you do for importing a horse? And so what I would tell you is, when I'm doing a domestic horse and the horse has been in work, and it's going to have a low-level job, I may just take feet and hocks. Might take front fetlocks if it's been a racehorse, because generally the racehorses have taken a lot of wear and tear on their front fetlocks, and so it's important to know that those are all in good shape. If I'm bringing a horse in from overseas, I do a lot of x-raying, and we will take all 4 feet, all 4 fetlocks, hocks, stifles, and the back, because I don't really want anything to be a surprise when the horse gets here. A lot of people have asked me about neck films. My personal feeling on neck films are that they're not clinically significant unless you're looking for an issue. And we have more help coming in now. Peyton, come here. As you can see, there's a color code in the house. You have to be black and white to be a dog here. Anyway, so that's when I'm shipping horse from overseas and have the additional expense of shipping them, I do want to make sure that the x-rays all look good and clean. And then I will also have them read by my sports medicine vet here in the U.S. because a lot of times European standards and U.S. standards are slightly different. U.S. veterinarians tend to be pickier, and so I just find that I'd like to have another person's opinion. Looks like we might have a question.
Yes, from Margaret Rizzo McKelvey. As a buyer, do you recommend being there in person for the pre-purchase?
I think it's always good to be there for the pre-purchase. I think there should be someone representing the buyer and there should be someone representing the seller. It's a lot easier to talk about issues that come up when you're standing there, and something that may not be an issue for a buyer. If you say the horse is maybe a half a degree lame on a circle but is sound being ridden, that may not be an issue at all. It might be a footing thing. It might be an issue and you might decide to block the foot. There might be a way to work around it in the pre-purchase to double check things. But if you're not standing there, or if you have a young veterinarian, a lot of times things get blown out of proportion and deals get missed and horses don't get bought. That actually would be super useful. So I always think it's important to have a buyer and a seller present. If you can't, as much as I hate to say this, videotape is available, and a lot of times videotape will help you in that if there's a question, you can send a videotape to someone of a specific thing and say, how do you feel about this, and where do you want us to go, and do you want us to block something, or do you want us just to x-ray something, or ultrasound. We have lots of modalities now that we can look at lots of different things on the horses to determine soundness and how much liability is there. So now we have negotiated the price. We have done a pre-purchase. Hopefully there hasn't been much to negotiate on the pre-purchase. Here at C-Square Farm, we feel like the horse's records need to be part of the pre-purchase exam. And to that end, any horse that is sold through us, all the veterinarian records that we have the ability to get will be available to the purchaser and the purchaser's veterinarian before the pre-purchase. Sometimes that's been up to 100 pages of documents for some of the other upper level horses that we've sold. Sometimes it's no more than shop records. I do that because things get missed and things get forgotten, and a lot of times people are busy and they forget that something's been done quite benignly. And so you just want to make sure that everybody is protected, everything's been, the I's have been dotted and the T's have been crossed. And so that's our feeling on records, veterinarian records at the time of pre-purchase. So now you've got a horse that's sound, healthy to do the job, you've negotiated the price, what do you do now? You get a bill of sale. So it's real important to get a bill of sale that has the owner listed, the seller listed, and the buyer listed, not the agents. And because the contract's not between the agents, the contract is actually between the buyer and the seller. Any commissions paid to anyone need to be written down in the bill of sale, and that's just a legal requirement. There have been plenty of lawsuits about dual agencies and people being paid underneath the table, and so it's just important. We do a service as agents and trainers, providing our clients guidance in the sale process, and we should be paid accordingly, but people need to also know that they're being charged for that fee. So you do that, you transfer money, and then any sort of registration papers. The horses from overseas always come with a passport for traveling these days, so you should get a passport. And then everything is transferred. It's the buyer's responsibility to change all ownership documents. And so they're responsible for contacting the U.S. Federation, the U.S. Eventing Association, the U.S. Hunter Jumper Association, the Dressage Association, and the FEI, if the horse has FEI numbers and passports. That's all their responsibility. Most of the breed passports don't require a change of ownership in their passports. So a lot of times you'll just get, for example, an Irish passport, and there's no need to necessarily change the ownership in that. So, what as a buyer, what to expect once you get your horse home? I always like to keep track of the people who I sell horses to. I like to make sure that they have no issues, that they feel real confident that they can call me if they do have an issue, if something comes up. We do an after marketing piece, which talks about our two companies, C Square Farm and Excel Star Sport Horses, and just talks a little bit more about us. And then we do coupons for sort of our sponsors. And people can get discounts, VTO, Hit Air, Perry's, Voltaire, Millbrook Leathers, Sagmay. So everybody's involved, and that's something we do for our clients, so that once you've bought a horse and now you have all these added expenses, sometimes it's nice to be able to go to VTO Salary, for example, and get a discount for a few months on anything you might need for your new horse. So at the very end of it, it's important to know that you can also call the seller or the seller's agent as the buyer and ask any questions. And then hopefully you go on to great success. And so that's really the end of the process. You negotiate the price, you set up a pre-purchase, usually within a week. Sometimes people require you to have a deposit. I don't usually, because the pre-purchases happen within a week. You get through the pre-purchase, you might have some negotiating to do then. You get a bill of sale, the horse exchanges hands, and then the horse is off to their new home. So that's the end of the process for us. Any other questions?
No.
No? Nobody else has any other questions. If you think of any questions or you want to know anything else, please feel free to write us on Facebook, to email us at csquarefarm@gmail.com, or to shoot us a question on Instagram. We've really enjoyed this Training Tip Tuesday series on how to go about looking at horses from a buyer's and a seller's standpoint. We hope you've enjoyed it too, and you stay well and healthy. Signing off.